You've been hearing me now over the past couple of weeks, and I think Brother Hanukkah has made some statements regarding. By the way, Brother Joseph Manning, I'm looking at your stuff, and I'm gonna figure out how to deal with the marketing. And I don't say any more about what you wrote to me about the other day in terms of this whole business of these face masks. A lot of people spend a lot of money on applications and apparatus to deal with coronavirus. But Brother James Hanukkah, it has stated that nobody's talking about the tribulation. And you would think, I've been mimicking Joel Osteen, talking about choose, there's fear over here and the hope over here. I've been mimicking Joel. And he said, you can choose. You can't choose. This is the tribulation. And you would think that at least somebody would casually mention that we're in the tribulation. But I'm going to explain to you why they cannot in just a moment and why they have not. And so I gave today's title is that Satan and his preachers preach the rapture philosophy. And that's one of the reasons why the Southern Baptists own the power over, if you will, evangelical understanding of salvation and the return of the Lord Jesus Christ. They own it. Now, they own it at Satan's teaching about a philosophical idea promoted by the Apostle Paul in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 17 regarding the rapture. It was a philosophical statement, such as what Isaiah made in Isaiah chapter 55, verse 12, when he said, the trees shall clap their hands and the mountains shall break forth with singing. It's philosophical. Or when Jesus taught about the prodigal son in Luke's gospel chapter 15, it was philosophical. It never happened. But Satan now owns the message he precludes the teaching of the tribulation because the Southern Baptists have always taught that they're going to be raptured and then the tribulation. It's called pre-trib. So that's why you're not going to hear them say it. For Southern Baptist, for Jerry Falwell Jr. or for Robert Jefferson, one of them idiots or fools, get up and say we're in the tribulation, he'd have to say he missed the rapture. And the fool ain't going to say that. Listen, for Franklin Graham to say we're in the tribulation, effectively what he'd have to say, according to the last 200 years of Southern Baptist teaching, is that he missed the tribulation. He missed the rapture. God didn't take him back. The rapture happened. He was left behind. Same thing with all the Southern Baptists. Every last one of them, every last one you hear on Salem media, every last one of them will have to say they were left behind. They missed the rapture. And now we're in the tribulation. They ain't going to say that. They ain't going to say that. But of course, in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 24, verses 29 and 30, Jesus said immediately after the tribulation, he's coming back. Immediately after the tribulation. So Satan has been preaching that rapture philosophy for the past 200 years, and he's now using this entire mega church called the Southern Baptist Evangelicals to blind people to the fact that we're in the tribulation now. Let me show you. I was the people out there in the hinterland. And I'm on a lot of the email list and blogger list because I used to run with some of these people, right? I did. Yeah. So I get a lot of the coronavirus is just a hoax cooked up by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, right? Now remember, they promoted Sandy Hook as a hoax, where 26 children were shot. Some guy sent me a note the other day and said they weren't shot with an AR-15. Okay, I'll give you that. But they were still shot with 9mm, man. It's just, what's the difference? Well, I guess there was a difference. But I give it to you. Okay, it was 9mm. But he did have an AR-15. His mama bought him one the day before he went out to Sandy Hook to kill them children. So they said Sandy Hook was a hoax, right? It didn't happen. Didn't happen. No, listen. You have to sit down and really quiet yourself and think that these people who said Sandy Hook was a hoax, the Las Vegas shooting at that concert was a hoax, that the Russia investigation into Trump and Putin and the 2016 election was a hoax. And now these same fools including all of the Fox News staff, is saying that the coronavirus is a hoax. And one of the ways they deal with this is they say, do you know anybody? And they may out in the red states where they probably don't know anybody that died or are sick from the coronavirus. It's pretty much a East Coast, West Coast thing right now. But it's coming, it's coming to Oklahoma worse than it came to New York. I can tell you that right now. But we'll get to that on another subject matter. So they've been raising the question about, do you know anybody? It's a hoax. It's all a lie. Ain't nobody dying. Coronavirus is just a hoax. So there was a event last night on The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, where this man was telling his daughter that it's a hoax cooked up by the Democrats and the Negroes up there in Harlem. And he asked her, do you know anybody who's got the virus, etc.? So I'm going to stop it right there, leave a cliffhanger, and let you figure the rest of it out. Mr. Engineer, roll clip number 1.
We begin tonight with the numbers. The number of reported coronavirus cases in the United States is now 775,647. And as of tonight, there are officially 42,043 reported deaths linked to coronavirus in the United States. Jo Joyce, a Trump voter, and his daughter Kristen disagreed about the coronavirus pandemic. Kristen told the New York Times he watched Fox, she said. She told the Times he watched Fox and believed it was under control. Kristen remembers her father saying, don't you think this is fishy? Do you know anyone who has it? Do you know anyone who has died from it? And I said, Dad, I don't know anyone now, but give me a week and I bet I will. And a week later, Kristen's dad, Jo Joyce, was hospitalized with coronavirus. In a Pulitzer-worthy report in the New York Times, Jania Belafonte tells the story of Jo Joyce from the 1970s when he returned from Vietnam to his time working as a gym teacher at a Catholic school in Brooklyn to his 43 years of owning and operating J.J. Bubbles Bar in Bay Ridge, 43 years that earned him the adjective beloved in the New York Times headline about him. Jo Joyce boarded a cruise ship in Florida on March 1st, the day after the United States recorded its first death from coronavirus. That cruise ship with Jo Joyce and his wife aboard was sailing full speed towards Spain, full speed ahead toward the virus in Spain. The second day that Jo Joyce was at sea, Donald Trump held a rally in North Carolina with thousands of people crowded in to see him and cheer him on. Jo Joyce flew back to New York from Barcelona on March 14th. He went to work at his bar the next day. And the day after that, New York City closed bars, forced all bars to close. So Jo and his wife went to their house in New Hampshire for kind of forced vacation. 10 days later, on March 27th, Jo's daughter, Kristen, immediately called an ambulance when she got off the phone with her father because he sounded so sick on the phone. Kristen thinks her father would have canceled the cruise and the trip to Europe, the trip to Spain, if Donald Trump had taken the threat more seriously instead of actually calling the coronavirus a hoax at one of his rallies. Kristen told the Times, if Trump had got on TV with a mask on and said, hey, this is serious, I don't think he would have gone. When her father began to feel sick, he resisted getting tested. He didn't think that he could have it, Kristen said, because he wasn't 100% confident that it was a thing. On April 9th, Jo Joyce died. Cause of death, COVID-19. Possible contributing cause of death, watching Fox and believing Donald Trump. Jo Joyce is not the only one. Today, the intrepid Yamiche Alcindor asked Donald Trump a simple question. Is he concerned? Concerned about people who listen to him and believe him and then get sick. It was a simple question, but the answer could not possibly have been more perverse.
I interviewed someone who said that his family got sick. They went to a funeral in mid-March and they said mainly because the president wasn't taking it seriously. He said, if the president had had a mask on, if he was saying we should stay home, then I would have stayed home.
Well,
Instead, I have family members. He said his family members were sick, and because they were listening to you. And do you feel like, or are you concerned that downplaying the virus maybe got some people sick?
And a lot of people love Trump, right? A lot of people love him. You see him all the time, right? I guess I'm here for a reason, you know? To the best of my knowledge, I won. And I think we're going to win again. I think we're going to win in a landslide.
The Trump non-answer rambled on, as his non-answers always do. And he never spoke one word of sympathy for any one of the 42,043 Americans who have now lost their lives to COVID-19, not one word. But he did say, instead of expressing any sympathy for anyone who has died, since that's what the question was about, he did say, a lot of people love me, and he did say he thinks he's going to win in a landslide. Those are the first two things that came to his mind, the first two things he said when he was asked about people dying because they have made the mistake of listening to him and believing him. And it is very fair to interpret that as a demonstration of the only things that Donald Trump actually cares about. A lot of people love me and I'm going to win in a landslide. It's really one thing. A lot of people love me, therefore I'm going to win in a landslide. It's one thing. That's all he cares about. If you're offered a chance as president of the United States to say something about Americans who have died from coronavirus, and what you say instead is a lot of people love me, so I'm going to win in a landslide, that makes it very, very clear that nothing in this life matters more to you. And that also makes it very clear that that is the answer of a sociopath. That is the answer of a person who demonstrated live on television today to the world that he is incapable of feeling anything for anyone who has died of coronavirus. You can just put the period after anything. He is incapable of feeling anything. The 42,043 are just a number in Donald Trump's reelection calculations, a number that he has to avoid talking about. The other number that's a problem for Donald Trump in his reelection campaign tonight is the 99% of us who have not been tested for coronavirus, and most of us will not be tested for coronavirus by the time we get to Election Day in November. And Donald Trump has to find a way to make that okay with voters who have not been tested for coronavirus, while Joe Biden is campaigning for president, promising to take presidential responsibility for providing Americans with the kind of testing they will need to safely go back to work or safely go back to school. A new NBC News poll shows Joe Biden running at 49% of registered voters nationally, with Donald Trump at 42%. That same NBC News poll finds that 87% say that it is very likely or somewhat likely that there would be a resurgence of COVID-19 cases if people suddenly went back to work now. Only 12% said that that is not likely. Those 12%, along with Donald Trump, don't seem to have a clear idea.
So there's several things here, and then I thought that this would be a cameo of looking into this whole business that is being promoted in redneck land, that the coronavirus is a hoax. I mean, they got signs, they're marching, they're waving the flag, and as late as March the 3rd, this year, Tribulation Trump held a rally in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he got up and said the coronavirus is a hoax. Now, you're going to hear him on some of his pressers and that he does every day for 2 hours, saying that he took strong measures in January to shut down China, while another 40,000 people came into America from China even after the shutdown, that he shut down Europe because he was taking measures against this coronavirus. But he gets up in a rally in Charlotte, North Carolina, down there with Sister Christian Estep's territory, and says that this whole thing is a hoax. And that red hat, redneck, red state crowd goes off the chain praising him that it's a hoax, right? So the reason why this is such a great cameo is because Jo Joyce was saying, well, I don't know anybody got coronavirus. It's a hoax. Trump is saying it's a hoax. But he died. The dog died from it. He died from the thing that said that Trump and Fox News told him that it was a hoax. The dog died. He dead? Everybody, he dead. He dead. So is it a hoax? I don't think so. But it's important that we come to realize that this is what is presently happening. And then one other thing, and then I'm going to move on. And that is this, is that the Yamiche Alcindor asked Trump yesterday, does he accept any blame, or is he somewhat suspicious of the potential that he or others may think that he has been the cause of the death of a lot of people? Because like Jo Joyce said, the president said it's a hoax. And so therefore I'm not going to believe it is a reality. It's not a thing. And so people are doing that and believe in Trump. They are dying. So is he responsible? And by the way, not taking the kind of administrative actions that he should have taken early on in January to get America ready to deal with this pandemic. People are dying because of his lack of leadership and authority. Somebody's going to, check that out. And she asked him that on yesterday. And the first thing he said to her was, a lot of people love me. A lot of people love me. Hold it, wait a minute. Excuse me. A lot of people love me. A lot of people love me. And I won the election. I won the election. I won the election. And I guess I did. And I'm going to win again in a landslide. And, what a fool. He never said, I regret hearing the deaths of a lot of people. And I guess, I don't hear a lot of other people talking about the sympathy, but you know that their priority is to sympathize. I remember I was one of the first ones that got online a month ago and said we ought to do something about the first responders and people working in the hospitals that are confronting this thing every day. I did a Wednesday night teaching and I jammed that thing up. Then everybody else started talking about it after I brought it up. But this was early on in the process. This is a bit of a news blog we do looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.